what the world is doing, or at least trying to do. Pollution, like the water and air it moves through, doesn't need a passport to travel from one country to another. Recognizing this, government leaders across the world met in 1992 at a conference called the Earth Summit. They agreed that more needed to be done to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and prevent climate change's nightmare scenarios from coming true. Even 20 years ago, they were pretty frightening. Since 1992, government leaders have met many times to discuss what should be done. There was a big agreement in 1997 called the Kyoto Protocol, in which developed countries like the UK, Germany, and Japan pledged to reduce their greenhouse emissions, like carbon dioxide from coal or oil. Then, US Vice President Al Gore was a major champion of the Kyoto Protocol. You may know Vice President Gore better as the narrator of An Inconvenient Truth, a movie worth watching about climate change and what may well happen if the world doesn't take the type of coordinated action reflected in the Kyoto Protocol. Since Kyoto, there's been little agreement on what the world should do to prevent further climate change, or on what individual countries should do. Most countries have not succeeded in cutting greenhouse gas emissions, but some have. Denmark, Sweden, France, and Belgium, for example, have done so in large part because more people and businesses are using less carbon-intensive forms of energy. As one example, in 2014, Denmark generated a lot of its electricity from wind energy. As another, Germany is a leader on solar power and in recycling. Germans recycle almost half of their waste. The United States has not made significant progress in cutting emissions, but has ambitious plans to do so. In early 2015, the U.S. announced a plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2025. The details of how we'll do this are still being worked out. China and other countries have also announced ambitious plans. Others still are expected to announce plans, while some countries remain focused on their own economic development, back to the energy poverty discussed earlier in the book. The next big climate change summit, kind of like the grown-up child of the Earth Summit, is in Paris at the end of 2015. We'll know more about what the world will or won't be doing on a big scale then. You can work to influence what happens in Paris and afterward by telling your congressperson, senators, and our president what you think the U.S. and other countries should do to combat climate change. You can also attend rallies and marches to help raise awareness about the urgent need for action on climate change and join online campaigns to do the same. But remember, as stated at the beginning of this chapter, there's a lot each of us can do on an individual basis that can make a big difference, no matter what happens or doesn't happen in Paris at the climate summit.